Google. Let's go get him again.
Welcome back to the Robezoid channel. I'm your host, Mark, and welcome to Sampling Samples Saturday. We are sampling from the brand of Dolce Gabbana and its flankered up line of light blue. I only own light blue, the original. My initial video from 2009, when I first got light blue put on, that is the only bottle I have, the only fragrance I've smelled from the light blue line. So this line might be one of the most flankered up lines of all time. It's up there in the count. This one called Light Blue Sun Pur which is different for just light blue sun, because of course the light blue line also has a female counterpart that is also equally as popular as the men's line. So they usually release these flankers side by side. So there's a woman's sun and then there's a men's sun. This sampling is part of your subscriber's choice. This is the one you voted for. I think it had total votes of 13 votes. There's not too many votes on these designer fragrances, but to all 13 of you, you're getting your video today. And as of today, I think the most popular one out of this line is the intense version of light blue, which is still in that subscriber's choice. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on that one, you can vote on that one. I believe this week coming up is a more niche, but the week after that, this one is on there. Every second Tuesday basically is designers, and the intense version is in there. Obviously, this is a limited edition fragrance, so they do this line every spring, almost like clockwork. So this one is sadly discontinued, but still available at discounters. You just got to do your research. Dolce Gabbana is a brand that you need to know personally from your fragrance reviewer. Not a big fan of. I'm not a huge Dolce Gabbana guy. I haven't even spoken about the line in a few years. I think the last video I did was 2019, maybe 2020. So it's nice to add something to my channel today, even though it's a older light blue flanker. So let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one. It was released back in 2019. Again, limited edition, discontinued, but I know that stock, at least this year, from what I saw, not all discounters have this. Let's say the amount of this fragrance being available at discounters now is almost shutting down. So this is probably your cusp. This video right here, 2024, early 2024. If you're gonna grab it, and especially at a price under $100, you might have to dig, you might have to search, because it's starting to be scarce and it's going to go up in price. That's usually the cycle of this kind of thing. The nose behind this, All-Star Perfume Alberto Morillas. The big notes to my nose is this familiar ozonic note that they utilize in these light blues. I've smelled it in the original. I'll be honest, again, my experience with this line is mid. I haven't smelt all these flankers, but I do have tons of samples and bottles of this line coming up on my channel. The other big note is grapefruit. Grapefruit is prominent in this opening, and white musk is basically the backbone of this fragrance. So as you can tell, there is some sexy notes in this fragrance that I really wanted to put in this major notes, but they're not. Coconut, ginger, to name a few. And I'm gonna get to that, but they're not major players in this one. Let's get to sniffing. All right, now it's time to sniff this one out. I am wearing it as my scent of the day today. I had a fairly big sample of this one, but let's drain the sample here and just finish it off. And oh, does it smell familiar? And again, I only own the one, the original, launching, didn't break. Okay, so right off the bat, this light blue sun, yeah, it reminds me of the original, the skeleton of the only bottle that I own from the light blue line, and this is Light Blue Pur and the Eau de Toilette. I don't own the Intense. I haven't smelled the Intense ever. I haven't smelled any of them, but I own this one. My bottle is so old, it was a launch bottle, that the bottle presentation looks different now. I remember people were saying that it's fake because they changed the bottle design a year and a half after they released that, 1 or 2 years. So anyway, this fragrance right here starts off smelling like light blue put on. So it's definitely a flanker. It's not stepping away from the original DNA or the original idea, we'll say. It's fresh, it's airy, but it also has that synthetic tinge that I didn't like in light blue. I was not a fan of that. And being completely transparent, I've put in a pretty good dent in this one. It was early, I think it was 2009 that I bought this. My collection obviously wasn't as big as this. I wore it quite a bit as a casual use, you know, just around the house type of thing. Never really loved it, but it got me a lot of compliments, that one. And I'm not a compliment kind of guy, but it did work its wonders back in the day. But it has a synthetic tinge to it that I really didn't like, but there is portions of it that I did like just a little bit, but not enough to be like a daily driver. Like, I don't even remember the last time I wore light blue. Now, the start of this particular release smells citrusy. So there's a 1-2 punch of bergamot and grapefruit. The grapefruit takes the reins over the bergamot, so it is the stronger one of the two. Unfortunately, both notes aren't that good. I've smelt designer scents that give you better of both. And that's just being honest here. As an example, just recently I unboxed a Mugler fragrance, also discontinued from Mugler Cologne, this one called Fly Away. I just unboxed this week. And the grapefruit in this is outstanding. It has a tartness to it. It's very authentic. I can't say the same thing about light blue here. It doesn't have that tartness. The grapefruit and the bergamot are just standards. Morias standards, not very good, but it does give the fragrance, of course, that citrusy opening. So it's bright, it's citrusy, but it's very generic, and you'll probably have smelt this before. This is paired with that familiar ozonic, salty quality that light blue is known for, which helps the thinness of the scent. It helps the overall picture of it being seaside. Yes, it makes me think of that, and it helps that overall picture, and does put it as a summer type scent. Now, this salty sea air chord will stay throughout the scent and is a high secondary notes, taking on primary functions at some points. So if you don't like this portion of light blue sun, you're not gonna like this fragrance at all. It is definitely a big portion of it. This runs through sun for a good half hour. So this citrusy, ozonic, aquatic type thing, until midway you finally get this coconut note that I was waiting for. Osmanthus too. They pair and they show up. Now, what happens is you start losing those citruses. They start drying out, and they're starting to be less and less of an impact in this point of the fragrance. And the ozonic quality kind of goes into the primary area of the fragrance. And then the coconut and osmanthus mostly showing itself more of an undertone to the scent more than anything. So it's not primary. Some people get a lot of coconut out of here. I'll be honest, I get a lot more coconut in a lot of other scents. It's more of an ozonic quality than anything else, the saltiness than anything. If you're looking for prominent coconut, this isn't it to my nose, personally. But look elsewhere. This cheapie right here, Set Sail St. Bart's, Tommy Bahama, like bargain bin, 15 bucks, 20 bucks. Not the best fragrance on the market, but it does have a good note. And that would be a good comparison to this particular fragrance right here. I would put those side to side as far as quality wise goes. Looking for a coconut, kind of almost like a tropical drink type of thing. I'm a huge advocate of Virgin Island water from Creed. I know, different price point, but sometimes you just have to spend a little more to get more. And I'm a huge advocate of this fragrance. I got my old school bottle here that has quite a dent in it. I gotta re-up, I gotta get a backup bottle of this. But I think personally, as far as coconut, tropical, this is the best in the game. Now, if you want suntan lotion, which this particular fragrance kind of goes into that direction, and this is not saying that this has coconut in it, but this has this one right here, Bond Number 9's Fire Island. Again, Bond Number 9, not a big fan of the brand. Fire Island has that suntan lotion vibe. So if you kind of like that, I would definitely recommend that. So the coconut here, because it's paired with a floral osmanthus, it gives this scent, and also has vanilla qualities. So it gives this fragrance a creamy undertone. And I want to emphasize undertone because the aquatic salty tinge is your primary. This coconut it's like almost a thin layer. Like if you're looking at percentage, it's like this versus this. So the coconut's not big for me personally. So it makes me think a little more suntan lotion than more than a tropical drink type of thing. Now this portion of the scent introduces also a mild cedarwood, and again emphasizing the word mild because it kind of reminds me of like beached wood. There's a slight rosemary note here as well in this mid, which also brings me to the herbal aquatics of the 90s, like Acqua di Gio kind of thing. And obviously, who penned that? Alberto Marias. So that rosemary aquatic salty tinge kind of goes in that direction a little bit here. So that's the mid of this fragrance. Now let's go into the back end, and the fragrance after a few hours dissipates and starts losing many of its interesting parts. And then now this musk comes in, the white musk, which was there from the start, but it really was obviously overshadowed by other notes, more interesting notes. White musk is very boring personally, so it's going to be more prominent as the scent starts getting very thin early in this dry down. So once you get into this white musk, ozonic, salty portion, you're counting down the minutes on how this one's gonna end. And this is like on hour 3 or 4. This is once you start losing the citruses are leaving, rosemary is starting to die down. The coconut, even though it's very thin, it shows itself in the mid, and then it's really just drops off a cliff. So a lot of the interesting parts are going away, and now it's a white musky, ozonic, salty thing. So there's not much left in this back end. There's not much of a back end in here. It's a 3-stager, but the first 2 stages don't last too long, and then the 3rd stage is, there's nothing really much to it. So overall, light blue sun, which has its lovers. It was almost, I could say technically was hyped within our fragrance community at launch. Personally for me, it's just a casual ozonic scent that is simple, it's wearable, but I think at the end of the day, you can do better. I was not excited with this sample at all. Every wearing was just like, yes, this is just your typical designer fragrance. I'm not gonna miss it because it's discontinued. I don't see any of the interesting parts being so focused on those interesting parts that it's worth a purchase. So that's where I'm at here, because the note breakdown had ginger listed. It also, of course, had coconut. But those were the notes I was hoping that would show me some character in this one. And honestly, the coconut, not a big player. Obviously, the ginger was not even worth noting in this fragrance review, so not really a big player either. So those interesting notes failed me, and it just brought me back to the original light blue. And this has some small nuances that changes it, but at the end of the day, that's not enough personally for me. Now let's get into Seasons Day Night versatility and performance. Seasons, this is an obvious summer and spring type fragrance. You could extend the life of it with most fragrances like this. This is very much, there's nothing huge here that I'll just say summer only. I feel it has the versatility of the original light blue Put-On, that you can stretch it out yearly. Day or night, I feel like this is more of a daily wear scent, casual, but can be worn at night during the summer months. If you're in a warmer climate that's year round, it could be your signature scent. Versatility, I'm gonna go with above average because it's easy to wear. Performance, the performance here was fairly poor, and again, from, you know, freshies, you almost have to cut them a little bit of slack. Longevity was 3 to 5 hours. You know, like hour 3.5 to 4, you could start sensing that, okay, here comes the ending, right? So it could stretch out to 6 hours, but it also has below average projection. Oh, project in the first hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. And then after that, it's a skin scent. So the performance isn't there personally, and that's kind of hard to find in this genre. So I'm not gonna poo-poo it too much, but you know what to expect from a lot of these freshies. They're not gonna last. So my final thoughts on this sample is, I'd put this in this category, and it's not as, I would say, as signature scent worthy as these ones, but Versace Man Eau Fraiche to the original light blue Put-On category. It's in there. There's nothing that's, you know, it's not one of the best freshies in the game, but it's in that category. And again, the Versace and the light blue, I think personally, the original light blue and Versace Man, even though they're older fragrances, they're more signature scent worthy than this thing personally. It's functional. It won't last too long. Don't expect much development out of this thing. The name Sun, the note breakdown with the sexy note of coconut was making me think beachside. Did it take me there? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sure. But there's others in the game that's gonna do it better than this personally, with more oomph, more color to it. Like I said, like suntan lotion, like this is vivid. Like it's not going to, you're not gonna have anybody doubting that this smells like suntan lotion. And again, going back to Virgin Island water, like this is, you know, it smells coconutty. You're not going to miss it. Here you can have doubters. Like the coconut in here is so light. There's some that say it's very prominent. To me, it's mid, like it's in the back end of it. So what I got out of this one is just another light blue flanker that has minimal tweaks to the original formula. That's it, and that's maybe what a flanker is all about, I guess. If I had to give it a score, and I always like to give a score out of these little samples because you never know when you're gonna see this on my channel again. Out of 10, I'm gonna give this one just the average score of 5. Just an average designer fragrance, especially at bargain bin pricing that you can find it now for now. I think, you know, there's some places that have these for 50, 60 bucks. Again, I didn't do the whole research of checking out all the discounters, but I remember this thing going for around 50, 60, which is, it's a good price for it, but anything higher than that, and it's gonna get to that point now that it's getting older now, that people are going to start asking $100, $120, $150 for these because it's getting scarce. That's where I'm going to go. That's a no-go, 100%. It's not worth that. So now that you heard my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. I know a lot of people have smelled this particular release. Love, good or bad, doesn't matter. If you agree, disagree with me, again, doesn't matter. Love seeing those comments, you know, different sides of the coin. And as always, a great import fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your summer flanker, light blue flanker, wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube.